Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an anime story podcast. I'm the Big Bad Moon. I'm one of your hosts. Right over here on the right is Helen 3D. She's one of your other hosts. Oh. And right below me is Bad Strategy. He is your other host. Hey, how you guys doing? Hi, Helen, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Just got back from a birthday party, so we're doing really good.
Birthdays are just the best.
Yeah, right?
How and whose birthday was it? It was your son's, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
6.
Oh my god, that's delightful. I wish I had another 6th birthday. That'd be great. Bad, how are you doing today? I wish I had another.
I am good, especially since I accidentally just opened the most recent issue of the Promised Neverland manga.
Ooh.
And this is different.
I believe that. Actually, I don't know if Helen, if you know anything about the manga, because it was a manga.
I don't.
Chapter 125.
It's a lot of chapters. Yeah, so today we're talking about The Promised to Neverland. The Promised Neverland by, I don't know what studio, but it is the heart-wrenching story of a bunch of orphans who are at an orphanage, but the orphanage really is a farm to farm children's to feed to horrible like boogie monsters. Which is, I think, a less than ideal place to be in life. But basically, beginning of the story, the 3 protagonists find out that that's going on and that everybody at the age of 12 is shipped out. At the age of 12, at the latest, is shipped out to be eaten by monsters, essentially. So
Especially their brain.
Especially their brain. They need them good brains. They're the smart. They're really smart. That's the shtick. Is they're very smart, and so their brains taste better.
This is not the Little Nightmares anime as much as we all want it to be, because that's a great game. Also, these are not children. It is important to note.
Yes.
These are anime children, and they're not just anime children. They're anime super children.
Yes. So they're
the smartest of the smart.
They're all 11, but they're hyper intelligent.
They're not all 11. They're differing ages.
I think they're all
So
11.
the thing about the show is that
Roughly 11.
there are different ages, but the ones who make it to be the older children are the smartest of the smart, because they want to breed them to have the best brains
and seasoned to taste.
So they're farming those. Yeah.
Yes. So it's interesting. It's a fascinating premise. I love the premise. I love the premise of there are children at an orphanage, and the orphanage is actually just raising them so they can feed them to monsters. I think that is delightful in a very dark way.
I'm going to something I feel like.
Okay.
I love the premise. The premise is great. I don't think the monsters are a meaningful part of the story. I think they're a sort of a background element.
I agree with that, actually.
I think if you pulled out every shot in the entire anime in which the monsters were visible, it would be unchanged.
Yeah. Actually, I think it'd be better. Except for the very beginning.
Well, I think you can get away without those shots. Like, okay, maybe the leg shot, maybe the foot shot in the first episode.
So, I like...
Yeah.
Or maybe the... Yeah.
I like showing... I like that they showed them at the beginning. Maybe they could show a little less. I like them at the very beginning showing like horrible monsters. And then for the rest of the show, every single time they show any of the monsters, they are just like sitting around like a big evil table going, what are we doing next? And and it's really inconsequential for the rest of the story. It just like flashes over to them and they're like,
next we destroy the Justice League.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, that's... So I think they could have cut that out.
I think that was a tactic they were trying to use, as they're still here. They're not.
Yeah, that's fair.
To make you feel like there's an overwhelming dread happening, but I think that happened all by itself. I don't think they needed that, and I think that could have taken away from that a bit.
Yeah, and I think if like one of the things for that, and I they kind of didn't like commit fully to the horror. It was really more like subterfuge kind of what is the thriller?
Yeah,
It was
more
very
political
thrillery.
intrigue. Political
Yeah.
kind of
And I think if they would have wanted to go like full like horror with it, they would have. I think it would have been really good to do like the Alien type of thing, where you try to make the characters always feel like there's one of the monsters like right around the corner, or that something is watching them. They could have done that very easily, and I think the credits, like the very beginning of the credits, love the credits by the way, but the very beginning of the credits where it's like just, coming from the floor, and like they could have done a thing where you always felt like there was something like right there, and I think it would have worked really well. They didn't. They just they did the more like political like subterfuge, like trying to like battle of wits kind of thing with mom and the other person, and that's fair. I was a little sad it was not more horror-y.
And I wondered too, like, how many people have tried to get out? How would they keep tabs on that?
Right.
How did the mom know what she knew? We later find out why, but at the same time, like, the only thing that even kind of remotely made sense in that direction was the watch.
Right.
Where she could see the children.
Yeah, the little like tracking device.
And it was interesting that, they figured out where it was hidden. I thought that whole story part was interesting. But yeah, I felt like they lost it in some of those areas where it could have been, they could have heightened the stakes more.
Yeah. And I think for what it tried to be, because I think here's I think the major thing that the way I feel about The Promised Neverland is that it kind of is. It feels like there's two things going on. It feels like there's a horror thing going on, but there's kind of not. Like there are a lot of thematic elements that are kind of horror. You're a helpless child and you're stuck in this orphanage, and there's horrible monsters, and there's this thing with the rose that like they stick in the chest. There's a lot of creepy stuff going on. There are a lot of
background elements that suggest that there's more going on.
Yeah, and it is suggestive, indicative of horror. Yeah, good.
Right.
Yeah, it gave me it kept making me wonder how much of this is explained more in the manga, or if it's equally explained in the manga, if they cover more.
Right. Well, and so with that, I don't know what tone the manga was going for. Like if it was going for horror, but like there are so many things I think that were really indicative and really evocative of like horror. But it wasn't horror. It was specifically like a intellectual thriller. It's about the battle of wits between the kids and mom and the other person. And so there was a lot of stuff that like the whole time I was really wanting it to be horror, because there were so many little elements in it that are really evocative of horror, but it was not horror. Now, that being said, I think it did what it did relatively well. I think it did get bogged down a little bit. It did slow down a little bit, especially in the last like 3 episodes.
I think that I was personally more hindered than I should have been. Like I would have enjoyed it a lot more if it had been pitched to me in the right way. And this is how I feel with every anime I watch.
Right.
When my expectations don't match what it is, I end up enjoying it less than I should, because I'm like, I hope this is horror. I hope this is like Little Nightmares, the anime. And
Little Nightmares is a video game, by the way.
And I was hoping, hoping they'd get out, and then by like episode 6, we'd be seeing them in the open world. If someone had just like told me at the beginning, this is the story of them trying to escape,
right, and
not of them being escaped, I'd have been like, oh, different perspective, more able to enjoy it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I think it definitely had a like I get somebody saying that it's kind of horror because it's so like it has so much of that in it, but the fact that it's really not written that way, it's not scary, it's not like creepy, it's just kind of it's just it's sitting there and seeing who's gonna outwit who.
I think it's kind of a coat of paint.
I wouldn't say it's appropriate for, younger than PG-13.
Oh, no. no. Well, it depends on how much.
I mean, if we're talking about, like, graphically, I don't feel like it would be appropriate.
Yeah, no, I would say it's probably honestly.
Okay, I'm the dumb audience. What makes it inappropriate for young audiences?
The death.
The death?
Like seeing the violent deaths. Yeah. And like when you find like the last episode where you see like there might be organs and stuff, but it turns out that it was not, those kind of things.
I feel like also thematically,
I think it's borderline. I think PG-13 would be.
Yeah, I'd say thematically, it's not the kind of stuff like the idea of like, hey, what if your wonderful caretaker that takes care of you actually wants you to die? I feel like thematically, it's stuff that I don't think I'd throw at somebody that's under 14.
Wait. Was it Willy Beamish? What was the old game?
Like Willy Beamish? What?
Was it? It turns out your babysitter is a vampire.
Yeah.
And the macaroni she's feeding you is worms, live worms, and you gotta fight the babysitter.
There's your obscure game of the day.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, you know what? There are like 11 people on Earth that know about Willy Beamish. So
this is not inappropriate subject matter for a kid in that respect. Like, Willy Beamish was great.
So Willy Beamish is really goofy. For those of you who know what Willy Beamish is, Willy Beamish was a MS-DOS game, or I believe it was MS-DOS game, where you do a bunch of goofy stuff. Kind of like Monkey Island. It was before Monkey Island. He has a babysitter who's a vampire, and I don't remember what he does. It's a very silly game. It's a game.
When she turns into a bat, you vacuum her up using the vacuum cleaner.
Right. That was it.
Also,
I feel like
macaroni, life worms.
Okay, so I feel like that's fair. But also the thematic elements of this I think are a little more serious than Willy Beamish. Your babysitter's a vampire. It's a bad 80s movie.
Back then they didn't really have a good grasp on what was appropriate and what wasn't.
Oh no, yeah, back then, and that was like Willy Beamish was nothing. Back then, The Promised Neverland was nothing. Like,
well, I mean, my parents let me watch everything, but and I was like 6 or 7 years old. Yeah, no. So I would say I'd say The Promised Neverland is probably I wouldn't really suggest anybody watching it who's probably under 14 and 15.
Yeah,
but then again, they're not gonna want to watch it. It's not an actiony. They're gonna get to episode 4 and they're gonna be like, I want to change it.
Yeah. I'm personally, and maybe my mindset would change under some conditions, but I'm personally less of the shelter children mindset, because
that's fair.
I don't think there was anything especially bad. I think if there were prejudice in there, it'd be like maybe I should.
Psychologically proven, if we're talking about science and psychology, they've actually proven when you expose the brain to those kind of signals and those kind of images, those are transposed into the subconscious. And so somebody who's younger may not know how to handle those things, whereas when you're older, you understand them better. It's not about not letting kids watch these certain things. It's about the understanding that they have at that time. So if they don't quite understand it, but my oldest is now mature enough that he kind of gets those things. So I wouldn't necessarily keep him from all of those things.
Right. Well,
so it's just about how they are mentally and how capable they are of handling the images that they're taking in.
Right. Now, and this is basically kind of how I feel about it, is that I don't necessarily think there's anything that's horrific in it, but some of the themes in it are. Do
they show any gore?
I don't. Like a little bit at the very beginning.
They show the girl.
Yeah,
they do.
But the themes in it are just they're things that I don't think anybody really, probably under the age of 15. I don't know. It depends on the person. It's a thing where I feel like you're not really going to be able to have any kind of meaningful thought about it at a super young age, and it's kind of disturbing the idea that you're the character that they all call mom wants to feed them to horrible monsters. I feel like it's just first of all, I don't think it would be interesting to anybody under that age. I also just don't think it'd be a thing you could really have a meaningful oh god, isn't that kind of horrific that the person because of the way
that kind of thing would have
life?
Traumatized. I would not have slept. I over processed. So, and my oldest does the same thing. You overthink these things. So no matter how young you are, some kids are just that capable of taking that in and understanding that as a concept. Now, my youngest, if he saw it, he'd be like, I don't know what the hell that was. And he'd be over it.
Yeah.
You said, he wouldn't even notice.
I don't think people would. I don't think kids would
It just depends.
care. I think they would just be like, I don't understand this, and
Yeah.
it's weird.
But it's not.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I just don't. I
You
don't.
can't lump everybody in the same group. And I know working, in certain fields, I've seen many kids who can handle it and can't.
Yeah,
Just depends. It really depends.
that's fair. I just didn't see anything that stood out to me as being like, don't
Yeah,
show this to kids. I guess like the
I work in
background
that field.
themes.
yeah. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. I don't know if I would like if I would have like a problem with showing it to like my kids, if I had kids, which I don't. If I had kids, I don't know. The thing for me is mostly I'd be like, I feel like you would not care, or you wouldn't get it, or you wouldn't really be able to have any kind of meaningful dialogue about the conversation or about what the thematics of it are.
Depends.
Yeah, and it just depends. Depends on people. Depends on kids. Honestly, it's something that I would probably. I don't think I would pitch it to somebody who doesn't already watch anime and who isn't like looking for a unique. It's something that I think I'd only pitch to somebody who's just looking for a kind of a unique anime, because it's kind of like, honestly, if you were going into it, like I think most people going into it probably be kind of boring because it's pretty slow. It's about the kind of intellectual struggle between these 11-year-olds. It's very deep intellectual struggle between the 11-year-olds and the keeper of the house that is trying to basically keep them subdued until she can ship them off to be eaten by monsters, which is horrific and I think a great premise for a horror. Although again, it's not a horror. So it was definitely interesting. I thought the art style was really great. I really loved the art style actually. Helen, what else did you think of the color palette?
I just thought they did a really good job on the movement and the way that they articulated like the different scenes. Everything was detailed enough and it came out very vibrantly, and you didn't have too many that were meshing colors. So like nighttime was nighttime, and you could tell like the candlelight was what gave it night, and you didn't see past that. So it wasn't like there were these city lights in the background. It just made sense. Everything was I think they did very good choices with how they designed each. Go ahead, Noah.
Speaking of lights, you know what looked great? The light on the floor in the intro that goes up and zooms up to the characters. That's a great way to start an intro. I like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was
They did a
very
great
good.
job on the intro. I
Yeah.
was
Really
impressed.
catchy song.
I mean, even though it was slow moving, I felt sometimes I felt like, oh my gosh, like why did it already end? We didn't get anywhere. But at the same time, for only being like 15 to 20 minutes long, it wasn't terrible. Like, but if you were watching it, not binge watching it, when you had to wait another week to see if anything happened and then nothing more happened, you're like, ah!
Yeah, so this is I actually think this is definitely the kind of thing that would probably work better in the original format of being a manga. Because of just the way that the format of like I'm sure they could get into all of the very very like haha, this is my da-da-da plan, and then somebody foiling that plan, and the cliffhanger.
There were a lot of cliffhangers.
Yeah, so like I think probably the original format, like I don't know how the manga was, but it seems like it probably or it's I think it's relatively obvious that it was written for the page and not the screen. That being said, though, it does look wonderful.
I thought they did a good job still, even on the screen. I felt like the arc was there. I didn't feel like they were lacking in motivation. They gave the characters good motivation. I just feel like it did just run slower than that would keep the attention.
The one thing
felt like it was,
the one thing I will say about that is that I think the last, so I agree, and I didn't mind the pacing of it, and I was listening, waiting for everything to happen until and obviously there's spoilers. I guess I don't really have to say that. we're discussing what happened in the show. But after what's the one kid died, after he gets shipped off finally. No, Norman, that was it. After Norman is shipped off, the next 3 episodes, and I'm sure this worked really well in the manga, but I felt like the next 3 episodes showed them like nobody doing anything, and everybody, this person's depressed and that person's depressed, and mom is telling her how pitiful and pathetic her plans are, and she should just be happy because she's here and she's going to be eaten soon, so she might as
But she
Right.
even offered her a part to be a mom.
Right. And so it was a lot of...
It was an interesting character build, too, for the mom.
Yeah. I feel like... I feel like they could have had... I feel like it was a little bit abrupt, and I get that they didn't want to do too much with her character until after the Norman thing is resolved, until after a lot of the stuff's resolved. The kind of vague is almost a false ending at the end, and then it go like the end, and then it goes back to, oh, this is all the stuff that happened with her, and it's like, oh, okay, now that she's out of the way, we're gonna see how she's just a victim of circumstance. I understand.
The reveal at the end was handled Death Note style. It was like, okay, haha, look at everything that has happened. Now that it has happened, let us flash back to the things that you did not see, that we did not show you, that you could not have predicted or known about, because we refused to show you as the people giving you the narrative of why this happened and why it is justified.
And that's interesting, because that's a very, this is a very mystery thing. So I think, I am of the opinion that in a really good mystery, the audience should get all the information that they need to solve the mystery at the end, but it should be done in such a way that at the end they go, oh my god, I can put it all, I can't believe this. But it's all, that makes sense. It wasn't a mystery. Like, this was that bit felt tacked on because it was kind of like a mystery, and there were hints at that earlier on in the show, and there are a lot of elements of the show that kind of felt like a mystery, horror mystery, but it also was not that. It was a thriller. That's what it was.
So in that vein, I'd like to feed off of that a little bit, because rewatching it, I started paying attention to what's his name? The black-haired guy.
I don't remember. Although their names were relatively easy to remember.
Ray.
So
anyway, watching it back, Ray was doing and hinting a lot. Like, it was very much apparent that he was doing that, but it wasn't when you first watch it, because it's like, oh, that's just his personality. He's a brooder. He's this. And really, he was tracing that through. So I thought that was interesting watching it back, that he was actually tracing that through. Which I did not get for the first walkthrough.
Yeah.
And I don't think you could necessarily get that through the first watch, because you don't know,
it doesn't give you
a personality choice, or if that's because they don't give you any other inkling that it could be that he might be talking behind their back.
Right. Yeah.
So you just don't know.
It was interesting, and I feel like that's probably the thing that the biggest criticism I have for it, and I think this probably feeds into the biggest criticism that Bad has for it, is just the kind of clashing of different thematic elements that makes it feel like it should be one thing when really it's not that thing. It's a different thing.
I think it's a matter of pitching it. It's not a horror.
No.
And it's
not a mystery.
It's not a mystery, although it really feels like it's a mystery.
It does. It feels
I think it's pitch it to people. It's not a horror. It's not a mystery, and it is about them trying to escape. It's not about them being escaped. If you read the manga, it looks like around chapter 40 they're escaped. In the next 70 chapters of them being in the world.
Right, and that's interesting, because Helen, you were saying that this does have a second season, yeah?
Yep, coming February of 2020.
Oh, so we've got a little while.
Yep.
So that's interesting. I'd be interested because I still have a whole bunch of questions about the world. And this is one of the things that it never, like,
It
again,
doesn't build the
like,
world other than the farm.
like, and this is one of the things where that's completely irrelevant to the story. And like the monsters, like honestly, they could take the monsters out completely, except for the very beginning. And it doesn't have to be monsters; it could be mafia members, or it could be Martians. It could be anything. And then take out all the shots of all the monsters from the rest of the show, and it would really not change the show very much. And I don't think it would really change the narrative at all. You just maybe have slightly less information when the monsters. Well, you wouldn't even have that, because mostly every time it shows the monsters, it's the people being like, "Hey, we're gonna do this," and they're like, "Okay."
It looks like the manga, once they get out, is they're in Monsterland, and there are horrible monsters everywhere, and they're being hunted by monsters.
And that sounds great.
And that's definitely stuff I wanted in this season.
Right.
I don't know how the show will progress. It seems like it will change its tone, because it really can't be that like political intrigue tone of the first season in the next season, if they're
unless they start doing like a thing with the kids not trusting each other.
Yeah, internal
be into
group
that, though.
conflict.
That will probably happen, but
It's really hard to say what it's going to be in the next season.
yeah, no, for sure. I think they'll probably have a bunch of conflict, inner conflict in the group, and then they'll probably also have to punctuate that with trying to not get eaten by horrible monsters.
They are prepared for it, though, because they played the most strategic game any child plays.
Tag. Oh yeah.
A lot.
As far as the characters go, though, I actually enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the main character. I enjoyed the main three characters.
This is a stylistic thing that happens in some anime sometime.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it happen sometimes. I can't say that it happens super often, but it happened in this anime. They put the characters out there. They then proceeded to describe the character's personality traits rather than showing the traits.
That's true.
They were like, this is Norman, his weakness is this, his strength is this. Ray, his weakness this, his strength this. And then later in the story, all the characters struggled with the weaknesses that were explicitly stated earlier in the narrative by the narrator.
Yeah.
And did well at the strength that was explicitly stated. So we didn't actually. It's one of those like I don't know, exposition hammer kind of things where they were like smack rather than behold.
Yeah, no, and that's always a weird thing, and that's not super uncommon in anime, is for them to be like, oh, it's this person, they have this trait and that trait and this trait, and their blood type is this. They have a fiery personality.
Blood type's funny. I wish it had given blood types. That's always.
I would have not been surprised at all if it had, based on the other stuff they did. But yeah, it's a common thing in anime, and it's I don't know. Yeah, I always think it's generally kind of clunky, but what are you gonna do? That's just a way that I think that's just kind of just a thing that happens in anime. It's generally much better to just let the characters speak for themselves, or I think it's much better for that. Maybe some people really like just being like, okay, that's this person.
I will say, when the next season comes out, I do want to revisit this because the monsters look cool.
Yeah,
and they might be a part of the story in the next season.
Right.
I would be into that. Yeah, no, I actually don't disagree. I think that's I would totally be into watching them, try to avoid being eaten by horrible monsters while going through the forest or whatever. Maybe in the ruins of civilization or something. I don't know.
And what is the control? We don't know anything about other than that they're on a farm. So we don't know the world outside other than we kind of get a tidbit that there are other humans living out in the world.
Yeah, and that they come by.
They say kind of something along those lines.
Yeah, they do.
So when I opened up the manga and I tried to find the point where they escaped, which I think was around chapter 40, what I noticed was they had a book. And they were like, you see, the book maps out an escape for us. And I was like, they omitted this. from
Yeah.
the anime. In the
Well,
anime, they pulled open the books and they were like, "Look, someone is leaving a message for us."
yeah.
But they never found any books that like.
Well, they
gave you
never
clues.
expanded on the books in
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah.
it was in the background, but it was never actually. It felt out of place in the story because it was something that they never developed.
and
They
I
never
don't.
led it to a conclusion.
It never really did anything though either, did it? Like
No,
there's
it seemed like it was going, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden
it
there was
just
no
was
books
done.
anymore. They just
Yeah.
didn't.
so that was
So-
probably an
looks like-
important plot point that just got left out.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
they included that scene that wasn't a scene devoted to the books,
Mm-hmm.
from the manga, and in the manga that led to them finding a book that mapped out an escape
Okay.
or something to that effect.
Well, that makes more sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Interesting. That's very
See,
interesting.
like sometimes that's what's so hard about manga being converted to anime is
Yeah,
that's
it really
kind
is.
of an important element that
Yeah.
we never got. And those, if you just watch the anime stand alone, you're not going to understand.
Yeah,
That
it's
doesn't make sense.
It's funny because the
Yeah.
people putting the scenes in seem almost like clueless because they left the scene in,
Right.
but
yeah.
it doesn't. They took out
It would
the
have
part.
been. It would have been probably
that-
better to just leave it out
Yeah,
just 'cause
just
it
to
didn't-
like chop chop.
if there was
Well, and
any.
if they left it completely out, then somebody could have found it and we would have never known. So
Right.
that would just be an unknown instead of having the books there but having them lead to nowhere. So why
Right.
have it there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if
Just
it
between
distracted.
the two, you either have it or you don't. You don't
Yeah.
just kind of.
It's one of those things,
It's
yeah, where
opti-
like you don't like when telling a story, everything in the story should matter to the story.
Yeah.
You don't
Right.
include the color of
Yeah.
the paint on the house that you pass by. You don't do like Lord of the Rings style of like they are walking
Mhm.
and the leaves crunch underfoot.
To-
20 pages later, more leaves crunch.
They were
But
beautiful.
so-
Yeah, Tolkien does
so-
that.
Yes. But he's
Yeah.
also world renowned.
That's true. But no, yeah, it's one of those things where
Everyone knows his excruciating
it's
detail.
it's not
Well,
quite. Yeah, I would say whilst Tolkien does get into somewhat excruciating detail when he writes, I'd say it's a little bit different in that every scene, technically in the Tolkien's stuff, I guess that's hard to say because I don't have a list of every scene Tolkien has in like Lord of the Rings, or any of those stuff, but. It's all important and it needs to be there. Whereas within the realm of the Promised Neverland, some of those scenes, definitely some of the monster scenes, probably the stuff with the book, they probably should have cut it because it's not relevant to the way they're telling the story. And if it's not adding to the story, it's wasted screen time because they can add stuff in there that's going to, like, screen time is really valuable. And if you have a scene that doesn't have any point to it or that it's not really relevant in this adaptation, then it's like, well, cut it. Put something else that is relevant in. You know, you have this, that's your screen time. That's very
Or if
important.
It felt like it was relevant, make it relevant.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
just make
Because the books were not.
or just make the episode shorter. I mean, I think some animes have
That's not-
episodes
no.
of varying lengths. You know.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. No, and that's, I definitely think if maybe they felt like they needed to put it in because it was an important aspect of the
But then they didn't.
manga, but they didn't put
Like-
enough in. Yeah, they put it in, but they didn't like get it
like
integrated into this.
halfway-
I have a metaphor.
Okay.
I have a metaphor.
Shoot.
It's like the person who takes the trash out but doesn't put a new bag in. And then you're like, the situation's worse than before because now I just have a garbage bin with no bag in it so I can't throw things away.
I feel like that would be an analogy, not a metaphor.
Yeah. Same thing.
It's the same thing, basically. It's the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think well, I mean, that trash was stinking at the kitchen, so it's glad they got it
but
out.
you can't throw stuff away now. And
It's
you're
true.
sitting there with
But you can
peanut
put a
butter on
bag
your
in it.
hands. You have like peanut butter on your hands and something you need to toss in the garbage bin, and you're like, I don't want to like dig around for a bag because I got dirt on my hands and I need to throw this away now.
Throw it out the door.
Cruel people.
You know,
Mean, cruel
it's
people.
it's not a perfect allegory, Noah, but
I want you to know that I was hurt by this
Yeah.
many times.
Okay, so I think
Sounds like a personal battle. I just want
this. Oh yeah, no, I don't know who doesn't take the trash out over there.
So
So
everyone, no one does it. They take it out, but they don't put a new bag in, and then I can't throw things away.
sounds like a lot of baggage going on with you now.
hey, gotta. I want you to know that really hurt my heart a little bit, Helen. Oof.
Oh my
But
gosh.
so
That's funny.
so yeah, so I think that it's definitely true. I feel like they either should have gone into it more or just cut the books out, because it really was inconsequential and it wasted screen time, and it was like, okay, well, we just watched this do this for a while, and I don't really feel like it's important to anyone.
Commit or don't commit.
Yeah, no,
It
exactly.
also
Cut it or commit to it.
Right.
It
Either or would've
also
been great.
it also made me paranoid.
exactly.
It made me paranoid because the entire time, because of that, I was looking at all the elements that they didn't follow
Right.
up on and wondering if they had left something out.
Yeah.
I was like, this didn't go anywhere. Was it expanded
What
more
is
in the
this?
manga? Did
Why?
they just like fail to convert it?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And you never want to leave your audience in that position where they're like excited to try and figure something out, and then it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but why? Why was that even important then? Why did that even matter? Like, what?
Yeah. There's. Yeah. No. And
make it something if you're gonna make it something, but lead to somewhere, or don't do it at all.
That might be. I think that going back to this might be just the theme of this particular show, is that it's not seemingly what it's supposed to be on the outside, and I don't know if it knows what it's supposed to be, because it has a lot of elements thematically of horror and a lot of elements thematically of mystery. It's not those, though. It has a lot of stuff in it, like they're not sure if they should have added the books, and they added them, but they didn't really have enough. So I feel like they just weren't. Maybe the team that did this, they really wanted to do the show. They really wanted to make it into an anime, but they really didn't have like a cohesive vision of what it was, and they just didn't commit to any one thing, because they didn't really they wanted to make it, and they made it, but they didn't commit to like, here's the theme, here's what we're going for. Like, if it's going to be a mystery, then the books are going to be a great plot device, so we're going to use those. This is going to be a great thing, we're going to do that. We're going to leave this thing out because that doesn't really go, and that's our screen time. They just didn't they didn't sit down and have a meeting and go, this is what we're going for, let's take all the elements and put it in, because obviously we don't have as much time on screen as they had on paper. So that maybe that's the thing that that I think that maybe should have happened, is they should have just sat down, decided what they were going for, only put in the elements of the story that are supportive of that. Maybe they did do that, Mo. Maybe it's brilliant, and I just don't know what I'm talking about.
Were there other elements in the show that anyone wanted to draw attention
I
to?
thought the voice acting was pretty good.
Yeah, voice acting, it was good enough that I didn't notice it.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that the dub version, or did you watch?
There's only the dub, or that I'm aware of. Yeah, so we watched the dubbed version,
Or
the sub version is what I meant.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
there's yeah, no, sorry. There's
That would be part of why I didn't notice the voice acting.
Yep. Yeah, so the subbed, we only watched the sub version because that's the only thing that is out as far as we're aware. Now, that being said, I don't speak Japanese. Maybe if I did, I'd have been like, wow, this is horrible voice acting. They don't know what they're talking about. But it seemed very authentic to me. So, the characters...
It's all just white noise.
It's all Greek to me. Or Japanese.
I thought it was really well done. I listened to a lot of voice acting from Japanese subs, and I thought they did a really nice job of catching it when it was like... when they were sending it to another person, the other person received it very well. And so you can kind of tell those nuances of when somebody is trying to do something to you and how that affects that person and how they send it back and forth. That's also a very cultural thing. You have to really understand, because in France, when they ask questions, their questions drop at the end. So if I said, what's going on, they would drop that instead of what's going on. you know? So you just have to kind of understand how culturally they're talking to one another. And I thought it was really well done. I enjoyed it. I loved listening to it. There are other animes where I've heard Japanese voice actors and I'm like, what are you doing? So I thought they did a nice job. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, and I think the music was also great.
Oh,
a lot of the sound, a lot of the audio design in the show was really good. Yeah, no, I enjoyed certainly the intro. I think they had some great thematic stuff. I don't remember the outro. Maybe because I didn't watch the outro, because that happens sometimes. Because I'm trying to get through a lot of anime. But overall, I think the sound designs were great. Love the animation. Thought the actual artistic design was really good. Like the color, like the character designed, like the style. Really lovely looking anime. If you want to watch a really nice looking anime, it's really nice. Although I will say there is not a stupendous diversity of scenery. You are in the forest, or you are in a house, or that's it. In a forest or in a house. If you really want some nice looking forests and nice looking houses, you're good.
But like, you know, the rooms and everything. But yeah,
and
there's not a whole lot of
not a huge amount of diversity going on in it, but what they did have looked really great. I would also say that about the characters. I think they looked really good. I think their design was great. They looked good. I think certainly the main character, the redhead, she looked relatively unique for an anime, for an 11-year-old anime protagonist. I don't know of any other shows that I can think of a character that looks like her.
Ray looked exactly like he looks in every anime in which that character archetype appears.
That is true. That character looks like every other version of that character, but the main character looked different.
Yeah. Definitely Protag was distinctive in appearance.
And I guess Norman was relatively unique as well.
yeah.
So I have a question. Did either of you look at Ray and be like, I know this character archetype.
Oh yeah.
I know their sense of morality.
Immediately.
I know everything about them because I have seen them many, many times before.
With Ray specifically, I did.
I would say for me it was to a degree. I mean, I could understand the brooding. I didn't necessarily get that he was betraying them. Because I felt like they had been so close for so long.
Ray wasn't ever betraying them by his morality, right?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, he didn't.
I think
he was doing it to protect them.
Right.
Yeah, like by his own sense of morality, I think he was always working to help them.
I agree. But I mean, there were episodes where it was questionable, like you didn't know.
Right.
And I didn't feel like I knew whether he was or not in those episodes.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
That's fair. That's fair.
To be fair, yeah, and I think it's, to be fair, the broody, comb over, dark-haired kid, really smart character who's a super edgelord.
Loose sense of morality.
They can have a loose. That's pretty standard. That but there are only so many characters, right? Honestly, that's not an uncommon character in a lot of things.
In Naruto, he turned into the bad guy, so
I did generally like who's the nanny? The other nanny, not the mom, but the other aspiring mom.
Yeah, I don't know who. I can't remember.
She was kind of interesting. I feel like they really rushed her in the end, and I was just like, okay, she's dead now. That was weird. That felt weird.
That is the bit of artwork you linked is splendid because it's the watch. It's the plate with the silverware for the clock hands, and it's got the gate on the back, which makes it almost look like a bird cage.
Yeah.
With the thing closing over them to make them trapped.
I thought that was really clever, because then in Crunchyroll they use that same image. That is very clever. To me was very, with the knife and the fork as the hands on the clock.
Yeah, and it has that like bird cage look. Because of the gate reflected in the back. That's solid art. I like that. That's really good.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be interested in watching the second season of it. Just to see what's going on with it. Although, if I'm being honest, if they don't get to like some monsters in the first like couple episodes, then I'm gonna be like, yeah, no.
Yeah,
I don't want to watch a thriller again. I want to watch a horror with monsters.
if I had really enjoyed this season, God, it's weird to say it, right? Because like looking at the manga, it looks like something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? If I hadn't have seen the first season,
Mm-hmm.
and I were going to start the manga from where the first season left off, regardless, I'm not gonna read the manga, is what I'm saying. But the premise and the theme and everything makes me want to.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
just because the first season wasn't what I expected and wasn't what I wanted,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'll just watch it when the next season comes out.
Right.
Yeah. No, I I definitely
I
think.
think that's fair. I think that there is a lot to want from it, but also there was a lot to it that it definitely had some good attributes.
Yeah. No, I honestly, it just I think miss what's the right phrase? Mispackaged almost. Like
Yeah.
it's this is the way it is. This is the theme it is, but like it feels like it should be something else. And I don't know if that's a matter of.
I really feel this way about every anime that I watch. I'm like, if this had been pitched to me differently, I would have enjoyed it so much more.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. My little pork cutlet. My little pork cutlet bowl.
Don't you call me that.
But yeah, so I mean, any Promise Neverland, interesting show. Has some good aspects to it. Has some questionable aspects to it. Mostly in how it is kind of presented and what it is exactly. I enjoy it. Bad. Who would you pitch this show to? The Promised Neverland.
Oh, God. Okay. It hurts because everything about it that I'm super into, all the like theme and the idea of it being a mystery and everything, it's not that in the show.
Right.
So I almost feel like I would pitch the manga starting from where the show left. Like I'd pitch the manga. Maybe I'd be like, go read the manga to someone who wanted what I wanted out of the show, and I'd hope that the manga fulfilled on that.
Right.
But it's
so you don't know.
This is just somebody who visually and like musically likes anime. I would pitch it to somebody who appreciates those things, but not necessarily somebody who is looking for plot holes or is looking for anything, because I felt like there was no commitment to what was happening.
Right.
I wouldn't pitch it to somebody who's really has a critical eye.
I think you make a really, really valid point. I think that if I were to go back in time to earlier me, and earlier me for some reason didn't have the podcast looming ahead where,
where he was
going to pay attention, and I were to pitch this to earlier me, I would be like, put it on in the background whilst you do something else. It's fine if it's in the background, because honestly that's not a bad way to sift through anime and see what pops out. And like
this is an interesting thing though, that I actually experienced this week, is that it's a show that I think I would pitch. I would pitch it as a thriller, and I'd pitch it as something that's about these kids trying to outwit this mother character, and I would minimize the boogeyman or the monsters. I'm just calling it boogeyman, the monsters and the prison thing and this and that.
I didn't want to tell you too much because I just
right.
didn't want to
There's a lot of absolutely. Now, I would pitch it to them that way because some people enjoy things regardless of thematically how they are for certain reasons, and like this was and don't worry, no spoilers, but I was talking about Game of Thrones the other day with people at my office at my work, and I was talking to this one guy and he said, I just really enjoyed like the politics of Game of Thrones. I don't like the supernatural stuff. I just wanted to go back to I just wanted to have politics, and I was like this. Wow, okay, that's fair. I'm glad you like that. I don't
I-
know who you are though. But some
I-
people just like the politics.
I can enjoy political
Not
intrigue
today.
in the right circumstances.
That's
I
true.
don't think this is the format for it. I
Right.
think I like one of the steps for me to buy into a political intrigue story is that the characters need to be over 20.
Mm-hmm.
If they're
Yeah, that's
under
fair.
20, I'm probably not going to buy into a political intrigue story just because
And like for me,
It's hard.
it really depends on the story. Like it's hard for me. Like with Game of Thrones, I just am like, yeah, I just like the monsters and White Walkers and dragons and stuff. That's the like, and I hope we can get past all that stuff. And some of the stories are entertaining, but like I just want to go.
you
I just want to go to the north.
I
That's all
can't
I
make
want.
a statement. I can't make a statement on Game of Thrones. I stopped watching it so long ago.
I
So
know.
long ago. I
know.
heard though.
Yeah, be
that
careful.
The
Be
Mother
careful.
Dragons lady on the most recent episode tripped over a log, broke her neck,
Yep.
and then they just played Rickroll for the rest of the episode.
Yep, that's what
What?
happened. Yep, that was.
Did she really break her neck?
Oh yeah, she fell over, broke her neck, and they just played the what is it? The Rick Rolled video for the rest of the
Rick
episode.
Astley.
Rick Astley's video.
Yeah, just the rest of the episode was just that.
Whatever.
Biggest-
You for all of 2 seconds.
Biggest troll in history. I think a good rule of thumb is to never trust anything the bad says ever, ever.
Mhm.
But okay, so interesting. So yeah, interesting show.
Important note.
Nope. Okay.
Best girl
Mm-hmm.
goes to the
The-
underpaid, underappreciated monsters from the first episode.
That's fair. I was gonna say the stuffed bunny though.
Right?
Was it-
I think Stuffed Bunny is waifu
Okay,
because
that's fair.
who else are you going to love in this cold, unfeeling world?
It's true. Nihilism.
Nihilism. Just embrace that void inside yourself.
Embrace eternity.
Can never be filled.
So that's
As the monsters
waifu.
eat
Got
your
it. Good
And the
stuff.
poor bunny didn't even make it.
He didn't
to
make it.
in time.
Very sad. So before we wrap that up, any final thoughts on Promised Neverland that you'd like to say about the show before we leave it to reviewing history? Nope.
If you go ahead.
I was just saying, clean the slate. I'm good.
If you do want the horror, you should play Little Nightmares because that game is 2 hours and it's great.
I hate games that are that short.
But they're
I'm
very
more of,
scary.
Like a Life is Strange kind of person,
Oh, that's fair.
or the old Silent Hill. Like,
Here's the thing,
You
though.
should play-
2 hours. 2 hours for like if it's well made. Like I can get into long games. I
feel
can.
like the game can be well made in 2 hours.
Okay, you have not ever played
You
Brothers: A
didn't
Tale of Two
finish
Sons.
Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, but you have to finish to appreciate. I know you got an hour into it and then you were like, "Oh no, no more time." If you'd have finished it, you'd have been like, "Noah, I love and hate you for this wonderful thing
I think I
that
actually,
you gave to me."
Well, no, actually, I think I played the wrong game. I think yeah, because it was too easy and kind of silly and kind of cute in a way.
Was
But
it
I think
was it one analog?
huh? Yeah. But you switched between 2 different characters.
Was it one analog stick controlling each of them?
No.
Hmm.
I don't even.
It hurts me. It hurts me that you should play Brothers because that's a
No, but I
Wonderful
thought I
game.
got the right game.
Is it
That's okay.
My bad. I'll
Next
play.
time.
wiping the slate?
There you go. Wipe the slate. All right. Real quick, let's discuss the anime that we're going to be watching next month.
Oh yeah, I know what that is.
We do have a little bit of time. We have 6 minutes left in the show, so I wanted to have a little discussion about that because we didn't talk about it last time, and we were all very busy, and so we didn't talk about it this time. So, we just watched The Promised Neverland. So, Helen, do you have any suggestions to throw out there while Bad searches for his suggestion?
I mean, I watch animes as they're coming out recently. I've been watching about 10 at a time.
Oh my God, that's
So-
horrific.
Shield Hero is really good. I like Shield Hero. That's a newer one. They
Ooh.
should be wrapping that one up pretty soon.
The
Mm.
Rising of the Shield Hero, I will
Right,
correct
fine.
you, is
Technically, it's called the Rising. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's correct. I abbreviate everything apparently.
Mhm.
What else is there? Love? Hen? Oh, do you have any suggestions for anime? We're all drawing a blank. Oh, Bunny Senpai.
Buddy Senpai. That
Bunny.
sounds- Bunny Senpai, even better.
Senpai.
It's
That's-
called Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Oh, it's a bunny girl. I'm less excited. This is
No,
much
it's
more
only
common
bunny.
in
No,
anime.
no, it's not.
This is
girl.
much
Not
more
this
common
one.
in anime.
Not this
I'm
one.
disappointed.
Oh, well, you're sad. You're just a sad little man if that's what you think this is. But that's the whole point, is that you think that's what it is.
Ouch. Oh wow. That's not at all what I thought it was going to be. I don't. Sometimes
If you watch it doesn't look like the picture. They do the picture on purpose. It's a play on
I
the
wonder.
fact that people do that.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Synopsis. What happens? Meets an actress dressed as a bunny girl.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's just the first episode.
If I had $1 for every time I met someone dressed as a bunny girl,
Jake, you promised you wouldn't bring that up again. That is between us. Bro code.
Even if we don't do it on this, you should watch it anyway to put your prejudices aside.
watch your prejudices.
Wait, is it a mystery? Is it an actual mystery?
It is, actually.
I might watch it if it's a mystery, because I am into mysteries. Just like, don't tell me it's time travel, because if it's time travel, I'm just binging it tonight.
That's true.
It's,
Oh,
Done.
that reminds me.
it's not time travel, but there's things that happen that cause, like, warped time. And they don't know why it's happening. They call it, what is it called? Like puberty complex or something along those lines.
Are you just getting back at me for the Game of Thrones thing?
Okay,
'Cause
No, I'm not.
if it's not this,
there is. Okay, real quick. So Bunny Senpai is on the table. Another thing I want to put on the table is Steins Gate.
Steins Gate.
I
I
don't-
haven't
we did
finished
Steins Gate,
that.
didn't we? Do Steins Gate?
I don't think we did Steins Gate. I don't think we did. I really don't think we did.
I
Did we?
think we did Steins
I'm
Gate.
pretty sure we didn't do Steins Gate.
I love Steins Gate.
You
Steins
see,
Gate's
we've gotten to
great.
that point.
Did we do Steins Gate yet? We said no.
Yeah, I don't think we did Steins Gate. Cause
Maybe I just dreamed that we did Steins Gate.
I think you dreamed we did Steins Gate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I never watched Steins Gate. I've not seen that one.
What? Steins Gate is
I know, Sam's seen it. I haven't.
right
just
in my
saying.
heart.
Steins Gate is a really great show. It's really great. It's really
Yeah,
it's
let's
and
do
it's
it.
time travel. Let's do it. I think we should do Steins Gate. That's my.
And it's a mystery.
All right.
And watch Bunny Girl. Bad.
Also, it is not the new Steins Gate. Watch the old Steins Gate, the original Steins
Oh,
Gate.
there's
Don't
a-
watch the new one.
There's a new
They've
one.
done that with Fruit.
So the new one
Basket.
is about. There's a point in Steins Gate during which Steins Gate has time travel. Spoiler. There's a point in Steins Gate during which there is one of the time loops that the show skips over and does not cover this loop here, right?
Okay.
The Steins Gate that is currently running, or maybe it's finished, I don't know, I haven't been keeping up with it fully, is about the loop here that got skipped over in the original
Oh, I see.
thing.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I'm sure it's not as good as the original.
I think we should watch the original one because that's the only one
Yes.
to watch.
All right, let's watch the OG.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's that for you. We're going to be watching next week, and that's going to be, or not next week. I keep saying that. Next month on the 1st of May. Oh my God, it's going to be May 1st. No, 1st of
No.
June.
What?
June 1st. As per protocol, I have decided I've screwed up the dates. That's just the way we do it here. So June
Yep.
June 1st, we will be
Yep,
which is
March
also the
3rd. March 3rd will be
October 11th. No, June 1st. Which is the first day in June and is the first Saturday in June. We'll be watching, well, we will watch it beforehand, but we will be discussing Steins Gate. That is the original Steins Gate, which I just make sure we got this right.
is, I'm pretty sure, based off of a video game, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think I heard that, yeah.
Usually video games come... That's what the wiki seems to say. Usually video games come after.
Yes.
Weird.
Yes, and that is, I can't remember. What is the year for that?
The year is 2009?
2009?
Is that right? Maybe.
Something like that, yeah. So, anyways.
Yeah, October 15th, 2009.
So that's what we're discussing next week or next month. You know when. I said it already. So, we'll discuss that, and it's a great show, and I'm excited to talk about it. Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a lovely day, and I hope all of your dreams come true. Peace out. Bye.
Bye-bye.